So what is Google Meet? Well, pretty much all of us know that by now. This is how most of us have our meetings, is through Google Meet. It allows you to have meetings for video conference, right? We're using it right now for training, remote interviews. We have our Google Team meeting. We meet every Tuesday through Google Meet. It's just kind of our new norm, right? One of the changes that happened in the last year is that we now can have up to 500 people at one Google Meet. So that really makes a chance for a bigger audience, right? So it was 250, if I remember right, but it is now up to 500. Also, if we wanted to, we could have a Google Meet all day long if we choose to. So up to 500 people, meaning interactive. We can have 500 people on a Meet URL and be interactive with no time limit as well. So please know that we do have the that capability if you choose to use it. What is a live stream? Well, you that are joining live do know that you just got view only access, right? You can't really interact with us inside the live stream environment. So keep that in mind. What that is useful for is like maybe 100,000 people needed to join that live stream. It has to be, what you do need to realize though, it has to be users inside the state of Iowa that have a Google account. So that does kind of cause us some issues with some of our agencies that are not part of our Google domain. They're still part of the state of Iowa, but they don't have a Google account. So that is view only, and it has to have a Google state of Iowa account to make that work. You can, as you can know, I record every live stream. I like the live stream, so it's less interruptions when I'm trying to present. Just gives it more of a clean video. That's one of the reasons why we choose this medium. So you can record it, and then I could stop streaming and start up again if I choose to. So there is some benefits to that, and I do know Google has some upcoming things that are coming with that. So it's a very valuable tool, so you guys know. One thing you need to realize is, where can you create and join a Google Meet? You'll realize in this slide especially that you could actually, this is a newer feature, we'll demonstrate this later. You can do it kind of already, but doc editors is a way that you can join and create a Google Meet. So in our doc editors, for those that don't know, that's sheets, slides, and docs. So you can join a Google Meet or create one there as well. You can also join a Google Meet through the integrated workspace inside Gmail. The other place is in chat.google, also could be an integrated workspace, however you want to look at it. You can join and create a Google Meet there as well. And obviously you can go to meet.google to join a Meet or create one. And last place, which is probably where most of you join your Google Meets, is through the calendar app. What I think is pretty fascinating about this is look at how many places you can access Google Meet. As we know, Google Meet is part of our daily activities, right? So we can join and don't have to go to one standalone app to actually join a Meet. You can access your Meet tool through all these apps within Google Workspace. So you'll find that as a pattern with Google. They want you to be able to join and use different tools within the app that you're in. That's why the sidebar is there. So there's a lot of different things, and this is one of those options for us today. So what has recently launched in the last 6 or 8 months is that we do have some more access points that you can do, or limited access if you need that for that case scenario. So we have what we have now is host management, quick access, and attendance tracking are 3 things that you can enable, turn on or off. It depends on what your purpose is for your meeting. You have to make that conscious decision before you start a meeting. What is your purpose of this meeting? And you'll hear that more as I go through the slide deck. But a quick summary: host management, if turned on, allows the organizer to put safety features on. We'll dive more into that. Quick access, it allows you to, when you turn it off, it gives you limited access when you join. So kind of be aware of that. I think I said opposite. I get those mixed up. And then attendance tracking is if you need to know who attended that meeting. So we'll dive more into this in a minute. But that's just a quick summary and definition of those 3 types of options you have. So the best way to kind of explain the rules is there's 3 roles within Google Meet, but they all have different names. So it really kind of makes it confusing. So I decided to add a party hat on there to really just kind of break it down in a little more fun way. So graduation's around the corner, right? When you host a graduation, you're going to have it at your house, most people, right? You are the owner of the house, right? You are also the organizer of the graduation party, and you're the hostess to the mostest, right? So you kind of already have 3 roles. The reason why Google has 3 roles is because you're using Google Meet in different apps. So like when you think of calendar, they use the word organizer, right? So kind of remember, think of it like hosting a graduation party. You're kind of all those anyway, right? And then you have a co-host, a moderator. So I'm going to pick on Jolene. I need Jolene's help to do the graphics and the designing and the decorating, right? She's going to co-host this graduation party. She's going to help me out. And no different than actually her helping out and when I train, right? She's helping, facilitating my meeting. I'm going to invite John and Chad to my graduation party, right? They're the participants. They're attending this meeting. So you can kind of see the different roles in a sense of how you would just do a party, right? So kind of know that they kind of intertwined. It's important to point it out because when you are looking at the resources of Google Help, those words are interchangeable. So you got to be aware that those are kind of the same hats. No pun intended, right? So be aware of that. So again, because it's a mouthful, I'll probably just stick with organizer because that's kind of what I'm used to saying. But no, again, those 3 roles are interchangeable. When you're the organizer, you get the capability of turning on or off attendance tracking. You can add a co-host. So I can add Jolene, John, and so on. I can create breakout rooms. I can create conduct polls, moderate question and answers. I record, mute, host management, quick access, and reporting. The slides at the deck's important. So if you do decide to turn host management on or don't decide to do it, you have the option to know what you can and cannot do. An organizer can turn on attendance tracking. You can turn on attendance tracking both in Google Meet and in Google Calendar. So if those advanced user or pre-planners and wants to make sure you have it all set up ahead of time, that's where it's really nice inside Calendar. You can turn on the attendance tracking. You can now, this is a brand new feature. You can, before you could only add a co-host inside the Google Meet. Kind of thought that was an inconvenience in my humble opinion, because I'm like, I want to be organized before this big meeting, right? You can actually add a co-host inside Google Calendar now, and we'll show that here at a later time. Before I go further on the slide deck, I do want to remind you, if you've been part of our trainings before, anytime you see the blue button at the bottom, it says tips and tricks, you do have the capability of finding more resources out regarding what's on that slide. So if you need more help with that particular topic on that particular slide, definitely check out the tips and tricks on the slide deck. It'll give you more information regarding that topic. So again, you can see in these screenshots kind of how you can grant access to co-hosts inside Meet and now in Google Calendar. Breakout rooms, this is another thing. You can be a planner and do it inside Google Calendar, and you can create breakout rooms inside Google Meet. Breakout rooms are great for an example. Let's say I was a CIO and I want the finance department to be in a breakout room, and I want the human resources in a different breakout room, and et cetera, right? I want them to go in their own departments and discuss this particular topic. That's one way. Or an icebreaker, or, hey, I want you to try this small little activity. Fill in the blank. You can determine how you would use breakout rooms, but it does give the capability of doing that. An organizer and host can actually create a poll. They can send out a poll like we will demonstrate later. Do you like the new Google Meet layout? And they can answer yes, no, I don't know. You can create any kind of poll. This is one thing you cannot do in advance, so please be aware of that. That is something you have to kind of either do it on the go, or what I do when I have to launch a poll in a meeting, I normally have to, if I'm the big organizer or the facilitator of the meeting, I usually join the meeting 5 to 10 minutes earlier. If it's a big meeting and I got a lot on the agenda, I would just go ahead and save those polls ahead of time inside that meet that I joined early. And then when I'm ready to launch that particular poll, I can quickly do it and not take up the time of typing that during the meeting. So there's workarounds on that. Question and answer. This feature is still not used quite often. People still use the chat feature, but the question and answer does give us the capability of kind of moderating it. Like you can hit the thumb and say, yes, I really like that question, or hey, this question has been answered verbally. So there is some ways to moderate and make a better use of your meeting time. Obviously, you can record. So if the host management is turned on, just the organizer can actually record the meeting. We will talk about how the reporting comes at a later time, but you can record. It'll always prompt you, are you sure you're ready to record? That is just good practice. If you've never recorded a meeting, you should always say, hey, is everybody okay with me recording? That's just good practice. Get their consent when they're recording a meeting. This is one feature, sometimes, especially in larger meetings, some people just get on and they don't realize, and then they turn on mute their mic, and it's just kind of like got that feedback, and maybe a couple people have done that, and the dog's barking. You can actually select mute all, like stop it, stop the talking. So you can select mute all, or you can mute individual people as well. I'm gonna go back on this. One thing I want to point out, when muting, you can never unmute anybody. So if John was actually talking right now, I could see him talking, but he's not got the mic turned on. We'll just have to tell him, John, hey, don't forget to turn your mic on. As an organizer, I do not have the right to go unmute somebody because it's a privacy issue, right? So just keep that in mind. There's not a way to do that, okay? The other thing is, so the organizer can turn on host management. And so what does that mean? It is those security features that we can enable. So with that, maybe this really is hard to understand. Like, most people will not turn this on, right? Host management is an additional security measure in a sense of how you want to run your meeting. Not that it's not secure, it's how do you want your meeting to be ran, right? That's the question you have to ask yourself before you turn on host management. It's like a teacher. I don't want all these other interruptions. I don't want the kids chatting, right? I don't want them sharing their screen. I want to see their face. I want them to turn their microphone on. I got to make those decisions, right? So it really comes down to 90% of us, if not 80% of us, probably do not even turn on host management. Why? Because most of it is just, hey, we're going to manage ourselves. We go to our Google Team meeting on Tuesday. We don't even think of host management. We're managing ourselves in that meeting, right? So be aware of that. This is something in a larger audience. Maybe like a supervisor is trying to go over new policies, procedures, and he wants to kind of just guide this conversation. And so we might want to enable the host management and turn these features on, such as don't want them to share the screen. I don't want them sending chat messages, or maybe I do want them to share the screen and I don't want them to send chat messages. You can alter those adjustments, those features, the way that you want to, that's right, run your meeting. So you have some options here. You'll notice there's some new ones that have been published recently. Turn on their microphone or turn on their video. Now, I just told you in like 2 slides back, you cannot unmute anybody. That's not what that description is saying. That means if I toggle that to the left, John would no longer see the microphone, even an option to turn on. It's going to be an inactive button. Same thing with the video, okay? So if I turn that to the left, it's going to be an inactive button for my participants, my non-co-host, my participants, okay? So don't misunderstand what I just told you 2 slides ago. Quick access, this is like going back to the graduation party, right? We send invitations out to people that need to come to the graduation party, right? And if they have an invitation, they can just walk right in. That's our default. They can just walk right in without knocking, okay? A quick access turned off means that they would then have to knock before they enter the Google Meet, okay? So again, not going to be in this 100% range. It's more in the 10 to 20. Is it a really private meeting? Do we want to make sure we know who is joining the meeting that's not invited, right? So again, not used often, but could be useful in that small case scenario. So again, just think of it as knocking. They have to knock before you join, and a person needs to accept that invitation, okay? Or we need to accept that they can come in. The owner and the organizer, the host, probably the most important feature, I think, is the reporting, because this is something that we get as tickets a lot, is that if you are the organizer of the calendar invitation or the one that created the Google Meet and started it, you are the most important person when it comes to the reporting in the whole Meet environment, right? When you record, a Google Meet, you get a chat transcript and the MP4 file that we get the recording on. That in itself goes into a folder inside your Google Drive called meeting recording. You maybe didn't know that. This is a lot of people don't realize that when you are the owner or the organizer of that calendar, you would then get a folder called meeting recording. Most of you have one in your drive. Inside there then has both the chat transcripts and the meeting recording inside there. As you can see right here, that's exactly what happens when you record. Now, if it's tied to a calendar invitation, as this one shows, that video and chat transcriptions goes inside that calendar invitation as well. And if they were invited to that calendar, they would have access to that as well. So in this particular case, John, Chad, Jolene, and myself are in the recording, and they are in my calendar invitation. They will have view access once this is done recording. And it will be also inside the calendar invitation. Now, they will not see the meet recording because I am the owner, and it will be inside my meet recording. Okay. Now, what happens if you do attendance, question, answer, or poll? It's a brand new meeting recording folder. It's actually going to be called meeting reports. So you could have a meeting recording folder inside your drive, and you could have a meeting reports inside your drive. The reports is in the sense of attendance, question, answer, and poll. So in this example, it will have like the meet code is on there, the date of it, and then you can see it comes in a spreadsheet format, attendance, polling, and question. Now, if you didn't do polling will not appear there. It's only going to generate what you did inside your meet. So homework assignment would be to check to see if you even have those two folders. If you don't, that means you have not recorded a meeting and you're not been an organizer of a meeting and use those features. So it's very important that you're aware of that. Now, the poll, attendance, and questions do not appear in the calendar invitation. You as the owner have ultimate rights. You can then restrict access to those polls and so on and not share it, or vice versa. You could decide to share this to people that you were in the meeting. This is what our results were, the poll of question A, right? You get the chance to manipulate the data, look at the data, and determine who should have access to the data. So same thing, you could do the same thing with the meeting recordings. You can restrict access, change permissions. Maybe you want to make this anyone with the link access and post it on a Google Help training page. Many things you can do with it. So just know, just like any other doc inside Google Drive, you are the owner of it. You have what? Ultimate rights to it. So if it's really just think of it how you function within Drive, it'll make more sense to you. Okay. So just be aware of that. So this is kind of like a repeat. So I'm going to go pretty fast on this. So let's go back to the graduation party scenario. Jolene, I need her help, always need her help, and she's going to help decorate and do everything, and she's going to help facilitate, and she's going to help me out with my party, right? So same concept inside of Google Meet. I can add her and make her a co-host, which is what she normally does for me. She's helping me facilitate the meeting, right? She's going to help maybe launch the polls. She's going to help feed the questions in chat. She's going to help record because I forget how to do that sometimes because it's, you know, you're nervous and you forget all those things. That's what a co-host does, right? So those are the things, and you'll notice the only difference really the co-host can't do is nothing with the reports. They can turn off attendance tracking, they can create breakout rooms, they can record, mute, all those same things, but you'll notice the one thing that's not on there is the reporting. So as you know, this slide is kind of like choose your web quest, right? What is your role going to be and what can you do? So in reality, it's exactly pretty much everything that I just went over. Right? She can add Chad and John to be co-hosts because remember, we can have up to 25 co-hosts. That's a lot of co-hosts. Too many co-hosts in my opinion. But if it's a large meeting, you may want that, right? So you can add up to 25 and she can do that as soon as I make her a co-host, then that's her job, right? So it just takes the weight off the organizer to try to function and do all the things inside a very big meeting, right? So again, she can help facilitate the breakout rooms. She can do the polls and questions. So again, we can save those polls. I can get those polls set up ahead of time, and then she can launch them, right? She knows, like, we probably have some kind of a script. Hey, at this time on this slide, please launch this poll. So again, a great way to make a meeting more smooth. Same thing, she can go ahead and record. She can help facilitate, make sure there's no dogs barking in the background, and mute people and mute all. Same thing, she maybe realized some people are putting inappropriate chats on. She can stop chats. Quick access, she can enable that or turn it off, and so on. So you can kind of see it's the same roles that we had with the organizer, but she doesn't really have much to do with the reporting. So it's important in those calendar invitations, if you are changing organizers, it's probably good to maybe change it, transfer ownership, and so on, because you can see the owner does have more access points regarding the reporting. And this comes in play a lot regarding the recordings of Google Meet. So think of that as you set up your Google Calendar invitations. So let's go back to the graduation party scenario. John and Chad are my participants, right? They're my participants. They're not really the co-host. They're just the participants that have been invited to the graduation party, right? So that's kind of how that works, right? So by default, our settings are the following in the admin console. Quick access is turned on and host management is turned off. This goes back to the 80-20 rule. 80% of you will never use host management, right? Never, right? Maybe 20% of you will use host management, right? And 80% of our meetings, we already know who's invited. We trust who it is. So it goes back to the keyword of managing ourselves, like the scenario of the Google team meeting on Tuesdays that we have. We don't turn on host management off. We don't turn it off, and we don't turn quick access off either. So we just leave it quick access turned on, host management turned off. And I'm sorry if I get those words mixed up. That's why I write them down, because they're like should be opposite in my head. So by default, let me repeat that so we have it correct. Default settings. Quick access is turned on. No knocking is needed. No knocking is needed. Host management is turned off, meaning we don't care who shares their screen. We don't care if they send chat messages and all that good stuff, right? There's no big dog, big person in charge of the meeting. We just manage ourselves, okay? So just think of it, that's kind of how we normally run our meetings, right? But if you do need to make it more of a limited access Google Meet, more of a conference call, want to kind of facilitate it, then you might want to look at the other two options. One, do you want people to knock if they're not invited to in this meeting? If you're worried about what the content is and maybe you want to just make sure they identify themselves before, you would maybe want to turn quick access off, okay? Again, small amount of users that would need that. Host management probably could be used more if need be in a larger audience, right? This allows just more control, keyword control, and safety features. So if you need more control of the meetings, like a crazy classroom, right? Then you want to add more safety features, then you would want to turn host management on. Okay, and if you want more facilitators, those are things that you want to think about as you go through and use the Google Meet environment. So again, default settings, most of us is what we use. If you do need to use more of the controls and the access, please read through this. Use this slide deck as what can I do at this role. So it's a really hyperactive, interactive slide deck. You want to know what exactly a co-host can do, you can find out what a co-host does. So just be aware of how interactive that is. The other thing I wanted to point out, we already talked about it in the very second slide, is where can you join and create. So these 5 links are resources on how you can join or create a Google Meet in these apps. So again, remember, Google wants us to be able to access our Google Meet through the entire Google Workspace environment. So I just wanted to make sure you had those resources in case you were struggling in that area. We will quickly demo this after the slide deck, but just want to make sure you're aware of that. So what happens when you are ready to join a Google Meet? Well, several things happen. So many of you, it's different than a live stream, but many of us have joined a Google Meet, right? We click on join a Google Meet and we get this screen, right? This is called the green room. What happens before you join? Well, let's go through this. Before you join, you have the option to look and see, is your hair looking good? You got a good smile? Is your camera working? Is your audio working? These are all good things to do no matter what type of call you're on, right? You can actually check your audio and video, making sure you're good to go before you actually join the live meet. Change your background. You can do a whole bunch of things now. You can change your background. You can add your own image, do all sorts of fun things. So be aware of that. If you've been in any of my trainings by now, you know 3 dots in Google Land means ... Google's got more for you. And that's where this has more options before you join. So you might want to know what's there. You never noticed the 3 dots there. It has more options for you. You also can use companion mode. This is brand new. This is great for when you only have one screen or you have a second screen you might want to use it for. It just allows you to be a companion, and that's when you join as a companion mode, it's your mic and video are turned off. So that's really nice. In case you don't have a microphone, there is a lot of case scenarios in the state of Iowa that do not have a microphone in their computer or something, or maybe you're remote, don't have great internet access, but you still want to be part of the meeting. One of the ways you can do that is join via phone for audio. So you can always dial in or call in to the Google Meet. So keep that in mind. This is for more advanced users. Oops, went back. You can always cast this meeting. Like right now behind my computer, I have another TV. Who needs another screen? I could cast it if I choose to, if I want it to show on a screen, on a TV or another computer. You can always just go ahead and click Start Presenting immediately instead of joining. That's up to you. I don't use that feature. I'd rather join, but you do have that capability. And the last thing we can always do is just join the meeting. So you have a lot of options before you even get into the actual live Google Meet. So here are some of the things in the preview, how you look and sound when you're checking your hair and checking your makeup and making sure your audio is good. You can go to the audio and video section. You can make sure that your camera, your microphone, and your speaker are all good. Make note that you do have some new options that maybe you're unaware of, such as adjust your video lighting. You may want to check that out. Maybe in a dark room or a really bright room, it can adjust that for you. Noise cancellation, this is very helpful, especially if you are in like a coffee shop environment or you've got kids or dogs. Make sure you have your noise cancellation on. It really can filter out a lot of the non-speaking parts that are in the background. Again, effects. Again, we like to express ourselves a lot, be the authentic selves that we are. You can do so with the visual effects, or you have a messy background. Those are really good reasons, right? So you can actually see Google keeps adding new ones. So definitely, if you haven't checked them in a while, you might find something that will spark your interest. So make sure you're aware that you can add effects. And then if you're still quite not sure you're happy with everything, you can always preview and capture it. So like you can capture everything that you've got going on. You've done all the audio, done the effects, do a last minute check. So you can capture and diagnose and it will tell you if you're good to go. So definitely, if you haven't checked that out, it's just a really good way to make sure you're good to go before joining the Google Meet. The three dots in Google Land, that's got more for you. You can see that you can add an in-house live stream, switch camera. So maybe some of you have a camera posted on your monitor, and then you have it on your computer, depending on how your setup is. Which camera, it's got the better lighting, right? Or whatever the case may be. You can switch cameras. You can also apply visual effects there. Turn on captions. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Report report abuse, and I strongly encourage you, if you are having issues, to definitely check out the troubleshooting and help. I'll show you that inside the Google Meet, but that's one I actually go to quite often. And then settings. So you have the 3 dots. It's kind of like your properties inside Google Meet. Oops, wrong way. You can always, you join a meeting right now. There's only 4 of us on our Google Meet right now. So we were all unmuted when we joined the meet. Now, if 2 more people joined, over 5, the sixth person would be muted. So be aware of that. By default, Google auto mutes everyone if there are more than 5 participants. So if you're like, I didn't mute myself. It just automatically does if you're the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, etc. Just because you don't know when you're joining, it's just kind of rude, right? It's kind of a good way to do that. You can Notice at the bottom, if you're mute screen, you have in your preview mute screen, or in the green room, or in the Meet, you have the microphone and the camera. When it's red, that means it's off. Red means off. Black means that it is on. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So if you're in that remote area or don't have access to the video or whatever the case may be, you don't have a microphone or speaker on your computer, this is where you can join by phone. You have the option to call me, so you could put in your landline or your cell phone or whatever the case may be and have them call you. That would seem easier to me is the call instead of me trying to dial it, these numbers, whatever is tied to that Meet, right? Each Meet has its own dial in sequence. So you do have those options to either call me or dial. So be aware of that as well. One of the keyboard shortcuts that was so useful before the new layout of Google Meet was these two shortcuts. Control E is to turn on or off your camera, right? That's really nice. And the reason why these keyboard shortcuts were very helpful, because before the new Google Meet layout change, the hang up button was right next to it. So people were accidentally kind of hanging up on each other when really all they were trying to do was turn on their camera or mute or unmute their microphone. So, but these are still very helpful keyboard shortcuts. Control D is a quick way to unmute or mute your microphone. So I still use these keyboard shortcuts. So be aware of those options as well. One other shortcut that seems to always make sure that you're aware of is the phone participants. So press *6 is to way to mute or unmute their phone. So if someone's like, I can't talk, you can just say, hey, in the chat, *unmute is a tip, or tell them *6 to unmute. Obviously, chat's not going to work inside a phone call, but you get my point. Next one, but that's a good one to let them know about. Oops, one moment. So after you join, what does it look like? And everybody knows what this looks like by now. But like I said, this is something we're doing at a daily basis. So we have now a new layout. If you have not noticed, I do like the new material design layout. It is definitely more end user friendly. But you can see that you've got a lot of tiles. You can change layout, all that good stuff. So that's what it looks like. We'll show you this in a minute in a demonstration. But these screenshots and information on this slide is very helpful. So if you're unfamiliar with what the icons, what they mean, it's a great visual indicator of what each icon does inside your Google Meet layout. So you can see all the things you can do inside, all the controls that you have available inside Google Meet. And we'll go over that in a minute. The other things that people do kind of miss is more of the icons and controls that you have on the right-hand side of your Google Meet. So these controls right here, a lot of people are not quite sure what these all do. Obviously, most people know what the chat does, but what is the eye? This is a missing component. A lot of people don't ever go to the eye. I strongly encourage you to go to the eye. And then obviously the activity area is very important. This is where you can create breakout rooms, the question answer, and then other meeting features such as whiteboard and etc. So please make sure you check out all the controls and make sure you understand what they are. So some of the things that you don't realize is pinning. This is a big question. So let's say someone is presenting and you see their screen, their presentation on the right-hand side, like over here in the tiles. Well, you can pin those. Sometimes this happens. You want to pin the favorite person in your room. Maybe you just want to pin Jolene because she's got a beautiful smile and you want to look at her. I don't know. But you can pin a particular person, participant in the Google Meet. So that's how you get whatever you want to view in your Google Meet as your big area. That is what we call pinning. So you want to make sure that. You also can remove. This is when you do not have the host management enabled, but we can remove each other. Like if I think John is being obnoxious right now, I could go ahead and remove John, okay? But if I had host management on and I'm the organizer, I still can remove him, but Chad couldn't. So there's a lot of things like that you have to know, but you can have the capability of doing those things. You can actually provide more real estate or hide yourself, right? You can actually change your self view. You can see in this screenshot, you can actually move yourself throughout the Google Meet layout. So if you want, you can go ahead and do that if you choose to. You can also minimize yourself. In the next screen, I'll show you that. but you can move your own self inside your Google Meet. You cannot move each other's, though. That is not something we can do at the current time. You can change the layout, though. So in this screen, you can see that I actually, in this one, you can see that it's been minimized. So myself is the self view, this girl in the blue shirt. That would be the one that's being minimized. So you could just reduce that, and that gives you more tile space, right? Because if you remove yourself, you get to see more of your friends, right? So be aware of that if you choose to. Also, some other things you'll notice in this new material design is when you're speaking, like right now, I'm on a Google Meet, I'm speaking, my box is blue, my audio is moving. So just be aware of those visual indicators as you're inside a Google Meet environment. And some of this we'll definitely go over in a demonstration, but I want to make sure you're aware of these resources that are available for you. So we have a tip or resource for you. It's called a Google Meet one-pager. I want to make sure you're aware of that. You can always steal and borrow this Google Meet one-pager and provide it to people that are brand new to Google Meet, or you just want to know yourself, like, how do I be more efficient? This would be great for maybe you're sending this out to the public and they've never been inside of Google Meet and they don't know anything. So please make sure, feel free to provide them this one-pager. It's anyone to link access. It's a great, hey, what can you do inside Google Meet? It's not a 50 slide deck to feel a little overwhelming, right? It tells you the features that are available. And we do take pride in this, and we do update this when new features do appear inside our domain. So for example, we've talked about most of these, right? The 500 interactive attendings. So these are all those things that we just briefly talked about, available in a one-pager with resources to the Google Help. So we make sure you have the most up-to-date resources. So be aware of that. So this is some of the other features. Some are brand new that's coming. Some of these are here. These are new since our last training. So I want to kind of go over these in greater detail. This is the companion mode. And again, I have to apologize in advance. I've not used it much, so I'm kind of a novice user when it comes to it as well. So apologize for that. But you do know, we talked about in the green room, you can choose companion mode if you choose to when you join, before you join. But you can also go to companion mode by going to this short URL, or you can go to companion mode by going to this URL as well. And if you checked it out, you'll notice you'll get some screen calls. It gives you more details. The biggest thing that I see using it is when it just eliminates any feedback you have, right? You can still interact with it, but you know that audio, when you have two meets going, can cause issues sometimes. So it doesn't provide any audio feedback. So that's really a nice feature. I definitely, if you think this is something you might want to check out, definitely just go to those two short URLs and you'll see what you can do with that. Meeting details, as I mentioned, I think is a hidden gem. Many of us attach agendas to Google meetings, our calendar invitations, because that's good practice, right? We're talking about project A and we have an agenda attached. This can actually save you a lot of time when you're inside your Google Meet and you're looking for the agenda. You don't have to go back to your calendar to go find it, or back to your drive. It's right inside that if it was attached to the calendar invitation. So I will demonstrate that here later, but we do that with the Google team. We have an agenda attached to our reoccurring, and when we need to access the agenda, I shouldn't have to type it in the chat, right? They could just go to the and be able to find it directly there because it's tied to the calendar. Plus, it has all the other joining information that you need to be aware of when inside a Google Meet. This is kind of a new feature. It has happened to me before I joined. I always join 20 minutes earlier and present that welcome screen, and it asks me, are you still there? I'm like, meeting by myself, no one's here yet. So yeah, you get these new reminders when you've been on the call and no one's there for a while. Same thing when you leave the call. Let's say Chad decides to get busy and he had to go somewhere else and he forgot to actually leave the call. It will pop up, and then within 2 minutes, if he doesn't respond to that pop-up, it will just hang up. So what does that alleviate? It alleviates some people when they don't stop recording too, and we might have a 7-hour recording when really it should have been an hour long because someone didn't leave the call. Okay. So a lot of things can help with this. It's just another way of making security. Like if Chad did go and left it on and had a really private conversation, it was part of the meeting and someone walked in. It's just one of those things that's just good that it's giving you a capability of leaving the call. So that's good. Translated and closed captions. So keep that in mind. You have captions that you can turn on. I do this a lot on my own TV all the time. Maybe my hearing's going bad, but I always turn captions on, subtitles when needed. You can do the same thing inside Google Meet. So for example, in this Google Meet, if I turn captions on, it's only going to appear for me, right? I'm making that conscious decision to turn the captions on. So it doesn't mean if I turn captions on, doesn't mean Jolene, John, and Chad have captions on. They would have to enable those captions on their own Google Meet environment in their own instance. Okay. The other thing is you do have some options to translate to several different languages. Not something many of you know or need, but it does have that capability to live translate when you need it. Again, we talked about this earlier about pinning to your screen. Again, this is really helpful to actually do a specific person, participant, and pin them on your main view. What is it that you want to see in your main view? So do have the capability of pinning. So think of pinning as your favorite. What do you want to see? Virtual hand raising, we know that we can raise our hand virtually in our Google Meet environment by hitting the hand button at the bottom. The thing is you now have a queue. You can see, and this comes back to the moderator, or if you're managing themselves, can look at the queue. That just gives you better moderation inside the meeting to know whose hand was up first, because first come, first serve kind of thing. It does help you with that as well. Digital whiteboard integration, in case you missed it, last week we did have a Jamboard training. So you can learn more on how to use Jamboard. We had actually provided a Jamboard background template for you, such as creating Kanbans, having brainstorming. I created you many different backgrounds that you can implement inside your Jamboard. Jamboard is the replacement of the official whiteboard that we had in the conference room, right? We would go in the conference room and we would write and brainstorm our great ideas on a piece of hardware, right? Piece of furniture, right? Well, now we can actually do that inside Google Meet. They use the tool, like I just mentioned, Jamboard. So you could actually start a whiteboard, Jamboard concept, or you can choose a Jamboard inside your web. There is no hardware that is needed to implement this. This is just part of your Google Drive tool that you have called Jamboard. So we'll try to demonstrate that here in a little bit. As I mentioned, the visual effects, there's so much more. There's immersive backgrounds you can choose from. You can choose if you think you're working at night, you can make your background be a night, or you can work in the day. Is it snowing outside? Let's hope not, right? You have those options to customize to, again, express the more authentic self you are. This is one that I use a lot. It's troubleshooting and help. I get sometimes in my previous computer, a CPU overload. So sometimes you might want to check your system load. So you can check troubleshooting and help. And I strongly recommend that. If you are having issues, don't open a ticket. At least try here first and see what can happen as you go through. Same thing with your settings. We've kind of talked about that, but you do have the settings option in Google Meet to go through all these options as well, which is very similar to the green room concept. Now, I know some of you want to know what's coming soon because these are really fun. This is coming soon. You can always find the original source inside here. It was posted on Google Cloud. And I just wanted to make sure you're aware. These are reasons why you should sign up for the currents page, because once we see it in our domain, we will let you know. These items are not here yet. Got it? Not here yet, but more to come. So this is public knowledge, though. Nothing's being disclosed, but you can, in the future, express yourself in meeting rooms with reactions. We like our emojis, right? We love our thumbs up, hearts, and smiley faces, right? So this is coming down the road, so be aware of that's kind of a sneak peek of what is coming. So in meeting reactions. Also coming soon is picture-in-picture. So Many of us are used to that. When we're scrolling through Facebook, we could bring the video down and give us more real estate and keep scrolling, I guess, if you want to say. Same concept will apply. So this is our multitaskers, right? Which is all of us, right? We're always multitasking and not maybe paying attention as much as we should, but we will have that option to do picture in picture. So more to come on that. Again, this is not here yet. It is coming. This is the big announcement that I was trying to say. This is, I'm personally really excited because every video I do, I just put it in Drive. And we as a team want to implement our YouTube channel more than we do now. So with that, our live streams will be able to integrate with YouTube. So this will also, how I understand, will be able to make it more accessible for, I don't want to say that. I need more information on that, but that's coming. So again, I'd have to dive into that. But you could definitely check in more information out by clicking on the blue button. But these are things that are coming. So those planners of us can definitely check that out as well. But I'm really excited to learn more about that. The other thing that will be here, like in matter of days, because it's already in our test domain, which I will demonstrate here in a minute, is that we will be able to directly create or join a Google Meet directly from our slides, sheets, or docs. Now, we could kind of do that now in a sense, but the actual Meet interface will be inside the docs, slides, and sheets. So you can see in the screenshot, like we will be able to, this is a perfect example of Jolene and I. We work on documents all the time together. We'll just be on the document and we'll just be working right here together. So this will be really a nice feature. And this one is coming very soon because if it's in our test domain, usually we're not too far in our prod domain. Things to know, this one shouldn't be an issue anymore. When we first went to Google Meet and the whole pandemic started, many of us wanted this Brady Bunch view, and now we kind of already have that in the Google Meet native app, but many of us installed the grid view extension. Let's not use it because it will cause issues. It will impact your issue and your environment inside Google Meet, which shouldn't be an issue. You'll notice that I will never present on top of my Google Meet because it'll start doing the cascading thing and it looks like we're going to the Twilight Zone. So we always have to open to a new screen. So be careful of mirroring your own screen that you're on in Google Meet. So it's better to open a new tab, do different things like that. You may see gray bars at the top of the bottom of your self view. It just tells you everything in your camera sees. So just lets you know exactly what is accessible for your participants as well. So don't worry about it. That's normal. Just be aware of that. One question I get is Google Meet secure? Yes, yes, and yes. Right? If you haven't missed it, we posted something on our Google Help website regarding security. Thank you, Chad. Chad did a great presentation regarding security. Google Meet is part of the Google Workspace environment. It's HIPAA, PII, FERPA, PHI compliant. It is part of the Google Workspace. It's encrypted in transit and in rest. All the recordings are encrypted. If you don't believe me, I strongly encourage you to go to the GoogleHelp-Iowa security page and listen to the chat talk. He's got it down, so definitely check that out. You can read our own OCIO Zoom guidance on our TextBuzz article regarding what our stand is regarding Zoom if you're doing a comparison. So be aware of that. So it is secure and definitely learn more. I'll skim through this, but if you are a big facilitator and you are presenting big, large audiences, these are some tips and tricks that we have provided for you. Julie and I came up with this when we went to our pandemic time when most of us had to go remote. So these are some good things that you might want to be aware of as best practice when you're doing video conferencing, if you are that main facilitator. And again, Google Meet resources, these are also posted on the Google Help Meet page, but as well as here as well. So that was a lot of information, and it was a lot of information to get ready. So I hope you at least have the resource. Again, it's a big slide. It is here on the Google Meet Help website. Again, I just can't emphasize enough, like most of our meetings are managed themselves, right? We don't care about the host management, and we don't care about quick access on or off, and so on. The reason why I believe that all these options came is because, one, education needs that, right? They want more facilitation inside a Google Classroom, Google Meet environment, right? Not only that, some of you have purchased Zoom for the same reasons that you do have more controls. Well, if I was doing a comparison between Zoom and Google Meet now, you have pretty much everything you possibly need in a sense. So it's a great way to compare if you're in that scenario. If you are purchasing something else, to compare, oh, we have host management now on Google Meet. Yeah, you can restrict access for this. They can knock before they come in. Yes. So that slide deck is really beneficial for those users. At the end of the slide deck affects all of us, right? And so what we're going to do next is what we're going. This is why John and Chad and Jolene are here today. They had to listen to all that. I'm sorry, guys. I said 45 minutes, not longer than that. But what we're going to do next is we're going to actually do a demonstration so you can kind of see. So bear with us as we do a demonstration on top of a Google Meet, but we're going to give it a wholehearted try. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to Calendar, because that's where we kind of all go, right? But we remember in the previous slide, we can join Google Meet where? Gmail. We can go to Gmail. We can go to meet.google. We can go up here and go to meet.google. We can go there. Right? There's all the meets, because every single calendar invitation is tied to a Google Meet. So I could go here. I could go to Gmail. And in our new integrated workspace, and I don't have it turned on, not on this account. But if you go to my meetings, you can see then, oops, get that out of the way. I have enter your meeting screen. You have all those as well. And this is where I join most of my meetings, because I'm inside my email all the time, right? That's my most used app, right? So this is where I would join, or I could create a new one. So again, we talked about Google Calendar, Google Chat, Google Meet, Gmail, and Docs. And we'll talk about Docs at the end, where you can join and create. So if you can't find Meet, I'm sorry. I think you'll be able to. So with that, let's go back to my calendar. Okay. So I've already set these up for time constraints. I just already set up calendar invitations. This isn't Google Calendar training, but most of us will create a calendar create an event, and then we're joining the Google Meet. So this is where many of us will go right here and join the Google Meet. With some of the new features that have recently been rolled out, we can do a lot of things in advanced, right? And that's kind of really helpful. So we're going to go through some different scenarios. So the first scenario that we're going to is do what we call the default settings. So John, Chad, and them, this is kind of my prompt to go to your calendar and find the Google Team training demo. So that's your prompt to go find that Google Calendar event. So what we're going to do is the Google Team training demo is, you can see that I am trainer 13 today. I am the organizer. John accepted virtually. Chad and Jolene are my other guests. Okay. So with that, I just want you to look at the settings in the back end. What can I do before if I choose to? If you want to adjust your settings, which we're not going to, because this is like a normal, going back to the 80% of us join a meeting like this. We don't even think about security features or controls. We manage ourselves. So if you wanted to check to see how you're set up on that particular event, you could just go to the gear, review the host controls, and you can see that host management by default is off. We don't need to turn that on. We're managing ourselves. Quick access is on. We're managing ourselves. We know who's going to join this meeting, right? And if they do join, we'll probably kick them out if they weren't invited, right? So keep that in mind. This is our default setting. This is default calendar settings, how meets are set up. So again, the 80% of us, that's how we join Meet. We don't even think about host management. So this is a great example of a Google Team meeting, right? The five of us are going to get together, the four of us are going to get together and discuss Google topics. So go ahead, guys, and join the Google meeting. And this is the green room that we've already talked about, so I'm not going to spend more time on that. But we can see that I can see right now that Chad is on this meeting. Looks like Jolene's on there. Okay, I suppose I'm ready to join. I'm going to shut my camera off and my mute on this one, because hopefully they can still hear me on that, because it'll be causing me feedback. But I'm going to go ahead and join now. So now we can see, and we're just going to quickly do a live tour on this. So we're in a totally different Google Meet, but we can just do a quick tour here. You can see the time over here. We have the mute. We have the camera, which is Control E. We have closed captions. We can turn that on. We have the hand raising, present now, 3 dots in Google, and then obviously leave the call, which I'm not going to do right now. And then the famous I. The I is very important, because right now this is where I did attach an agenda. So you can see all the note description of that as well So everything in the description of the calendar is here. So that's really helpful. I don't have to go to my calendar to view those details. I see the joining information in the I screen, and I can click on that document, which is the agenda. So one thing I want to do before I get too far is I do actually want to record this meeting so we can see how the meeting recording actually works. So any of us could record this at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and record it, and I'm going to start recording. And the reason is I'm doing this is so we can see how the reports work throughout this. So I'm going to go ahead, and I would normally ask, are you guys already okay for me recording this? They're going to say yes, because that's what I want them to say. And so it's going to record. Okay, so I'm recording this separate meeting, and I'm going to get a report after I'm done because I am the organizer of this meeting. Okay, so what are some other things we have here? We have the I, we already talked about. We have show everyone. This is where we can, I could make Chad a co-host if I choose to. I could remove Chad, right? I could think Chad is the most important person in this call, or Chad was presenting and this was the presenting. I can make Chad the main screen, okay? I could unpin Chad as well, okay? And again, I could remove anybody from here, okay? Now, what about myself? What about self view? So you'll notice when you hover over yourself, and today I am trainer 13. Remember, I'm not Jessica in this account, I'm trainer 13. I can actually minimize myself, and now I have more real estate, right? Obviously, this is only 4 people, but some of us might be beneficial. So you can always make yourself smaller and minimize. You can expand it, right? I can then also remove this tile. Watch what happens there. I can remove it, and then I can put myself over here, or over here, or over here. This is where you can adjust your self view, okay? I can also pin myself if I think I'm that important. And again, you can remove the tile, which gives you the capability of moving it around, and then you can always minimize. Speaking of layout, most of us probably don't do this, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about layout because that's a hot question we get. Where can you adjust your layout? Is in the 3 dots is a way you can adjust your layout. You can go to your 3 dots and change your layout. And you'll notice you have auto, tiled, spotlight, and sidebar. Most of us probably like the tiled. It's up to you. But notice if you had a larger group, you have up to 49 people that you can show in tiled. Okay? So find which one you kind of like and go from there. So you have auto, tiled, spotlight, sidebar. But make note, if you do like the tile, that's a question that we receive. You can go up to 49. Okay? What else do you have in the 3 dots? You have in the 3 dots, we have full screen if you choose to. You can switch camera. Again, apply visual effects. Again, I strongly encourage you to check that out. Turn on captions. Again, this only turns it on for my own Google Meet. So if I click turn on captions, you'll notice it's turned on, and it's only showing for me, even though I'm showing my screen right now and I'm on mute, so it's not going to show because I'm muted on this account. But if it was live, it would show that if I wasn't unmuted. But you have that option to turn on captions. Then you do have the option to use a phone if you choose to. Report a problem, report a abuse. But the one thing I'd probably recommend, as I mentioned earlier, troubleshooting and help is very beneficial. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this. This will tell you exactly like how your bandwidth is doing. How's it going? Do you have good network stability? As you're on a system load, you can see my CPU's going up and high, especially when I joined the Google Meet because I got 2 going. Any echoes? No. And then if you're still having issues, you can always go to the help and see what they recommend for you. Like one of the recommendations, close some of your browser tabs. Just I have a few too many on, right? So definitely be aware of this. This is very helpful. This is great if you are having an ongoing issue, and we appreciate you double checking that when you're having an issue. Hand raising. So guys, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll raise mine as well. Go ahead and raise your hand. When you raise your hand, you can see like Chad just did and John, you can see right here that they get a visual indicator that they have raised their hand. Also in the people screen, you can see then You have options to lower, and I see that Chad was the first one that raised his hand. So what should I do? I should say, hey, Chad, what's your question? And go from there. And now that I've answered his question, I can lower it. And so much more. Same thing. I can just go ahead and lower if you choose to, and they can lower themselves. So I can say, I'm done. Oh, they already answered my question. I can remove mine. Okay. So it's really polite to use the hand raise feature. Strongly recommend that. And I think we all can say in Google Meet, we get really frustrated. I feel like we're talking over each other all the time. A hand raise is a good way to just interject when you think you can't be heard. So let's do some other fun things. Let's go ahead and go to the activities. We're not going to do a breakout room in this particular one, but we're going to do a poll, and we're going to do some question and answer. So John and Chad and Jolene, go ahead and submit a question and answer in the question and answer form. Just type in some gibberish. I'm going to go ahead and show how to start a poll. So you go ahead and start a poll, and I can ask a question, and I could say, do you like Google Meet? And I would normally do this ahead of time unless I feel like we need some feedback. So I can do yes or no, and I have the option to delete it if I choose to. I can hit launch, and I can hit save. So this is where if I was joining 10 minutes early, I would hit save. Now I'm ready for that part of the training or part of that presentation. Okay, now I'm ready to launch. You notice before I launch, I do have the option to show everyone the results before, or I don't. It's up to you. Depending on how collaborative, how much you want to disclose. I'm going to go ahead and show everyone the results, and I'm going to go ahead and launch. So what happens is on the screen, on their Google Meet, they're going to get a pop-up just like we just saw with the Google questions. That's going to be popped up in the middle of the screen. So they're going to go ahead and answer that poll. And the reason why we're doing this is for multiple reasons. But I'm going to go now, while they're answering that poll, I'm going to go to the question and answer and see what they have asked. So go to the question and answer. What is your favorite Meet feature? Oh, that's a great question. They can all interject on this as well. And I could actually hide this and say, well, that one's been answered, so we don't need to, we can hide that. So there's some moderations that you can do inside the question and answer feature. So very good information. You can also sort unanswered. You can sort hidden. You can do lots of things inside here to determine and help facilitate that. Okay. Again, this is all about managing each other. So you can see that, do you like Google Meet? 2 of them said yes. Awesome. Good for you. So now the reason why I did the question and answer, the polls, the recording, let's do what most of us do is chat, right? So we go to your chat. Gentlemen, do you mind going to the chat and writing a hi message? They're going to go into chat. This is where we can interact via chat. One thing I do wish they would do is that we can tag each other, but we don't. But this is where you can chat in here. So these are all examples of doing things and managing themselves. One last activity I will do is a Google Meet whiteboard activity. So that is inside your activity window as well. You have the whiteboarding. You can also do that inside here as well. Open up Whiteboard Jam. Either way, you have many options. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the whiteboard. I don't have one ready to go, so I'm just going to start a new whiteboard. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, it's creating a jam. It's also who's on this meeting. These are the people that are on this meeting. Do you want them to have edit rights? Well, that seems the best way to do that when you're trying to collaborate. So I'm going to go ahead and share. And what's going to happen is then in the, I think it pops up if I remember right, it goes in the chat meet. Yep. In the chat meet, it says, I have shared a jam with a file. And then it doesn't automatically present it, but we all can go to this jam board right now and work on it. So we're brainstorming it. We're brainstorming what do we want to do. And this gives us that whiteboard that we're so used to in the conference room. So that is just how you implement that. But you can see now that we're all on this, we can collaborate and do all sorts of fun things. And so on. So that's what that works. And obviously, probably more than likely, last thing is we probably, if I was presenting this, I would probably go and share my screen. So if I wanted to share that Jamboard so we can see what is taking place, even though we're all on at the same time, you can always click the share button. A question that I get, present, excuse me, not share, present, I normally do my entire screen. That's how I present because that's just usually I'm going through 5 different tabs as I'm doing it. So most people probably falls in that bucket. You also can do just a window, okay? And if you are actually, some people will present in a video on top of a Google Meet. If you are that person, if you were doing a YouTube video inside a presentation, best practice for that is to use it by tab, okay? And it even tells you at the bottom, best for video and animation. It will give you the best quality. So if you have a video or animation inside your slide deck that you're presenting, use the present tab feature, okay? But most of us will just present your screen. Now, the next thing that everybody says I can't share, this is where you have to pick which screen you want to share, okay? So in this case, if I wanted to, I'd pick this one or whatever it is, and then I hit share. That's the other thing. So these are things that people really have issues with. If you're presenting, you have to select what area you want to share and then click the big blue button. But if you don't see the blue button around, the blue rectangle around it, you're not selecting it, okay? This is a true troubleshoot, okay? So just be aware of that. I'm not going to share it, but that's how you would do it, okay? So in a nutshell, there was like, we're just taking care of our own meeting, right? We're just doing our own thing. We're meeting and managing ourselves, pretty much know what we're doing. Normally we're talking back and forth, but in this case, I didn't want all that. So that's just how that works. So, but what I want to do then is I'm going to stop recording and we're all going to leave the call and we're going to do a different scenario here. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording and we'll come back to this. Now remember, we did a Google Meet in here. We did a Google Chat. We did polls and we did a question and answer. So once we hang up with this meeting, at the end of the training, I'll show you all those recordings and reports that we get. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and close this. Bye guys, join the next meeting, please. So we're doing the next meeting, which is quick access off. So they're gonna have some issues joining the next meeting because, oh, no, we're not. Sorry, next meeting is, I went out of order. The next meeting is host management, and we're just gonna talk about different ones. So guys, we are going to the Google training demo. No, we're not. Google training, this one. This one right here says host settings on. Google training demo, host setting on, that one. So go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead, they're going to join. I'm going to go ahead and show you the settings. Now, as I mentioned, host management is probably not going to be used very often. So this falls again in the 20% range. So with that, you can make that decision ahead of time. Is this an important meeting? So I'm the organizer of this event. I can make that conscious decision now, which is nice, instead of inside the meeting itself. So is this an important meeting? Is it really confidential? Do I want to limit access? Do I want to do this? What is it that I want to do? In this case, I just want to turn host management on. So I'm going to leave host management. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to leave quick access alone just to show you the difference. Host management, I'm turning on. Okay. I can make a conscious decision right now as well, is to add a co-host. I love this feature. So again, I'm going to add a co-host here. I'm going to go ahead and add Jolene as a co-host. Okay. Now that I have host management on, I can then add a co-host. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say one more time just to make sure we're good. I think we're good. But we're going to go ahead and join the Google Meet. So they're already on. So that means they're already invited. They walked in, all good, because quick access was on, and anybody can join there as long as they're invited and so on. So now there are some things that are different, and this is where it's a little different. Now it's hard to show on my end because I have everything. I'm gonna I'll shut my camera off. I'm the host. They would not see this icon. The only person that would see this over there is John and Chad do not see this little icon. John and Chad do not see this icon. Jolene does, because why does Jolene? Because she is my co-host. Jolene can limit access and do all these things as I can, because she's my co-host, okay? So this little icon appears when host management is ready to go, okay? It should have been on. So there we go. Turn that on. So I can then limit access of sharing the screen, send chat messages, and so much more, okay? So that's what we can do with host management, okay? They would not see options to record. They would not see the options like that. So you can kind of see, let me do one thing here. I was gonna do this. Hold on a second. Bear with me. Let me show you what it's gonna look like for a non-host management, a participant like John and Chad. Okay, so I'm bringing over trainer one. Trainer one is in the same hat, remember the party, same hat as John and Chad, okay? Trainer one is now joined that same Google Meet, and you can see that trainer one does not have the host management option, does not have the control icon, doesn't have the capability of recording, can answer polls, can do some question and answer, okay? If Jolene went in there and limited access to chat, this would not appear, right? I don't have capability of muting or unmuting them, okay? I don't have the capability of removing them. I can still adjust my own screen. So you can see what it looks like as a participant versus a host or co-host. It does look different, okay? So just be aware of that. Notice Jolene must have turned off do not allow to share screen. Thank you, Jolene. Since Jolene is a co-host, then I am not allowed. I'm just a participant. I cannot share my screen because it's a grayed out button, right? So she's controlling the environment of the Google Meet for the participant, okay? All right. So that is up to you. So you have those safety measures if you choose to turn on, and how to control the environment in your Google Meet. Okay. So guys, we are done with this Google Meet. We can get out of this one. Last one is we're going to do a quick breakout. We're going to do the icebreaker one. Actually, we're going to do the quick access one at 4 o'clock. We're going to do, somehow this got, oh, there we go. We're going to do the breakout one next, the icebreaker. Sorry, guys, I'm jumping. Icebreaker training demo. It's a little off my script, but it'll be fine. We'll go here. Do the icebreaker training demo. This is going to demonstrate how you can do a breakout room. So as mentioned, you can do a breakout room in advance. You can decide, do you want to divide them in the finance department, HR department in advance? You would just go to the Google Meet settings as you do in the calendar. So we're going to go there, and I can set them up in advance. So if I wanted to, like, obviously this is a little early to do this, or a little late in the game, but you can actually break them out here ahead of time. Obviously it's not many, but you can see that put John by himself in the corner, and we can do Chad and Jolene, or maybe I could join John, I guess. But you can just, whoever's invited into this Google Meet in this calendar, well, then you could divide them out. You can do, obviously this is a small group, but you can shuffle. You can just randomly shuffle them if you choose to. You can have more than 2 rooms. So we can have up to, I don't remember, but you can have a lot more than 2, okay? So you can save it, set it up in advance, and hit save, right? Or you can do it on the go. We're going to go ahead and join the Google Meet. Go ahead and join the Google Meet, guys, to the icebreaker one, And we're going to hit join. Now, when we join the Google Meet, we're going to automatically join the main call, okay? Everybody joins the main call when we do a Google Meet. When we do a Google Meet, we join the main call. Then you, as the organizer, decide, okay, everybody go break out in your own rooms, do your icebreaker activity. So we're going to walk through this because this is going to be in a video. So now that we've joined the call, all right, now I want them to break out. Now you can adjust it. Maybe someone didn't show up in the Google Meet. Maybe we need to make adjustments to the breakout room. So where do you do to adjust the breakout rooms? You go to the activities, you go to breakout rooms, and we can set them up again or whatever the case may be. Again, knowing the timing of this is just a little off, but you can drag and drop. Maybe John is showing up late and he's grayed out. Maybe he wasn't on the call. So you can actually make adjustments, or maybe I think Chad should be in the corner instead of John. You can adjust it. You can shuffle. You can set up a timer. So I could end out the breakout room in 10 minutes or whatever the case may be, and so on. So you can actually set adjustments and so on. We're going to go ahead and this is going to be a video I want. So I'm going to go ahead and open rooms. What's going to happen is when I open rooms, they're going to go in their own room and then they're going to come back. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and open the rooms. And then you'll notice the breakout rooms are ending in 1 minute. They're going to go to a whole separate Google Meet. They're going to a different URL, okay? But they will have the option to come back to the main call. They will have a button to choose to come back to the main call, okay? I can go in and join Jolene's breakout from here. I can join John and Chad's breakout if I choose to, okay? They also have an option to ask me questions. They can come and say, hey, or ask me to come in that room. So there's a lot of things they can do on their end to facilitate the breakout room. So it's nice. We have used the breakout room for the Google user group, where I'll just say breakout in groups, try this activity, and I will come back in and go from there. So we'll give it a second for them to come back because I put a timer on them. They'll come back to the main call. Again, they can always come back to the main call. But you can see they'll slowly come back into the main call. Hi, guys. Thanks for coming back. But now that breakout room experience is done, now we can come back and discuss how was that topic, what did you guys do, and so much more. So option 1, you can create the breakout room in advance. Option 2, you can always adjust it in the Google Meet or make one here as well. So really pretty seamless. If you have a larger audience, you can see where breakout rooms in advance would be more beneficial. Okay, guys, that one's done. Last one is the private party. So the last one is Jolene and I have a date here at 6 o'clock to 7, and it's a private supper with Jolene. Notice this one is just Jolene and I, right? So Jolene and I are going to have a lunch date, supper date, right? And I think we should probably limit our access. They should knock before they go to our supper. So I'm going to turn off quick access, meaning they have to knock before they come in. So I'm going to go ahead and save those changes. Jolene and I are going to join this Google Meet. Jolene and I are going to have our private supper. But John and Chad, for some reason, think they need to join it. Well, first of all, they would have had to have access to this Meet. So they're not just going to just hijack this Google Meet. So don't understand that. So what I'm going to do is pretend that Chad found this invitation and he's like, I want to join this invitation. So I would still have to provide this URL, okay? So I'm going to go ahead in a separate window, John and Chad, I'm sending that link so you guys can join. So they're going to join that Google Meet. They're going to need to attempt to join that Meet. Since we have quick access off, I hope, since we're having a little issues. Oh, why is that doing that? I didn't test that. Okay, so John's probably, I didn't get changed fast enough. John is probably trying to join. Chad, do you mind leaving and come back in? There you go. There we go. John is knocking at the door. John and Chad are both knocking on the door. I could say view all, and I can make a decision to admit John. And I can actually, if I wanted to, deny entry for Chad, but I'll be nice and I can admit. So you can see where it quit turning that quick access off. It does give it more like who's coming in. When they had to do that, they actually asked to type in their name I believe, and make sure they know who they were. So you have more identity for when they join the Google Meet. So in a nutshell, that is how that works. I think the only issue I had was I tried to change the settings so fast, but you should be able to do all those things in advance, as I just shown, and then also do them live if need be. So you can make the decision, and we all know we forget to do some of those actions, so be aware of that. So with that, I just want to make sure, let's see, we can leave this call, guys. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my Google Meet. So I want to show my reporting real quick. So what happens, remember the very first meeting that we got on, we had, we recorded, we did their polls and so on. When you are the organizer, you also get an email. So you do know when things are done. So the very first meeting we had was the Google team meeting. And notice in this one, I didn't do attendance, forgot. You can do questions and polls. Notice now you get this, and you can actually click on this, and you can see this actually is a folder called Meeting Reports, and then it's inside this folder with the date, Google Team Training Demo. And you can see then they come in a Google Sheet format. So that was the poll that we asked. There are the answers to the polls and so much more. Then here is the questions. So you can actually see a great detail of the questions as well. Okay. Now, and I want to just show you, there is a folder now in my drive, as many of you probably have. There is in my drive a meeting reports folder, and meeting reports folder again hosts the poll and answers, polls, questions, and attendance. Okay. And then now, as for the recording and the Google Calendar, or the recording in the chat history, there is the recording, and there is the chat transcript. Now, they do give it in this format. Now, it's in two places. Well, it's in three. It's in your Gmail. It's in your Gmail email, but it's also in your calendar. So notice now in that calendar invitation that we just had, there is the chat transcript, which is the chat, and then this is the recording is inside that calendar invitation. It's also all linked, same file, inside your Google Drive folder. Again, if you are the owner, in your meeting recording. Oh my goodness. Meeting recording. Bear with me. There you go. They're in there. Not in a separate folder in sense like your meeting reports, but it is that way. One last thing I want to show you is the brand new feature that we see in our new test domain that's not here in our prod domain yet. I'm going to pull over another account. Bear with me. So this is in our test domain, which is not our prod domain, but this is pretty exciting. This is a Google Doc, and we can normally work in our Google Doc. We're working away, right? That's what we're doing. This is our brand new feature that's coming out. I'm so excited about this one. You will see a new icon on the top right-hand corner. You'll see a new icon. And if I had an upcoming meeting, I'd be able to join right there, or I can start a meeting on the go. Let me refresh because I did set up a meeting. So let me just see. Okay, start new meeting. So you can see now, I could share this link if someone was joining this one right now. But you see down here, you have the turn the mic on, you have camera, you have present. And if anybody was joining this right now, I don't know if they'll be able to join. We'll just try. John and chat, put it in your chat. See if you can join that. I don't know, I didn't try that. But you can see then you have all this right here. And you have, so it's like working on the document. It's like a picture-in-picture in a lot of ways in my way, but it's really nice feature. There's John, there's Chad. So yes, so That works really together. Really nice. And so it says you're not presenting, but you could start presenting this tab here, or I could click share the link. I like share this link because if I share the link, it brings up the chat, and then we could be working on this document together, obviously. It works really nice. I think this will be a lot in your smaller collaborative environments. I can't think of all the projects that I've been working on in the past year, how well I would have used this feature. So pretty excited. So this should be coming. Another plug for Currents. So make sure you're aware of that. So some fun things, more to learn. So you got a sneak peek of that. I'm going to go ahead and stop this call. Last thing, I know I'm almost up, and I want to also take this time to thank John, Chad, and Jolene for being here and dealing with my plan here. But thank you. I just want to remind you that there's a lot of information what we went over today. I will try to clean some of this up what I can, but you can see that we'll make sure the slide deck is always up to date because it's posted on our Google Help. So like some of these features will be partly inside our native app Gmail. Some of them are still just coming, but also we will update the host management and quick access videos as well. So you have a more up-to-date. As we know, Google Meet is constantly changing for the better with those announcements I made today. So again, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for those that are watching the video at a later time. If you have any questions, please reach out to Google Iowa at iowa.gov. We're more than happy to assist you in any way. But thank you so much again, John, Chad, and Jolene. And with that, I think we're at our last meet. We can finally hang up. So thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.